The Russian army has received a new batch of T-90M tanks and additional units of modernized T-72B3M tanks from the Uralvagonzavod defense manufacturer, following reports earlier in the year that hundreds of T-90M had already been delivered under surged production. The Russian Industry and Trade Ministry reported regarding the latest delivery. Defense enterprises timely meet the needs of our armed forces for advanced and reliable hardware. This work is controlled by the Russian government's Coordination Council. Enterprises have gained a good pace. In particular, Uralvagonzavod has boosted output more than threefold over the past year and has now delivered the next batch of T-90M Pro-Ride and upgraded T-72B3M tanks to Russian troops. This armor is especially in demand in fulfilling objectives in the zone of the special military operation. Uralvagonzavod CEO Alexander Potapov elaborated that his firm was able to rapidly provide new hardware for the armed forces, and that the quality of the tanks being supplied had been proven by invariably good assessments of Uralvagonzavod's armor given by the military participating in the special military operation. The special military operation is an official Russian term for referring to its operations in Ukraine from February 2022. Of 5 major tank factories operational in the Soviet Union in the 1980s, Uralvagonzavod is the only one still producing tanks in Russia and is by far the largest tank plant in the world. Although before 2022 orders for new tanks from the factory were negligible, with only 10 new tanks acquired in the 2010s, Uralvagonzavod retained a massive output far surpassing the collective outputs of all tank plants in the Western world, Japan and South Korea combined, due to export demand for the T-90 primarily from Algeria and India. In 2022, domestic demand for newly built T-90M tanks increased rapidly due to both losses of older tank classes in Ukraine and to the increased tensions with an expanding NATO, which has placed further pressure on Russia's defenses. The T-90M has been widely praised as the most capable tank in the world by Russian officials, including President Vladimir Putin and former President Dmitry Medvedev, and has significantly superior capabilities to all other tank classes in Russian service, with its main gun, munitions classes, armor protection and sensors all being outstanding. It is expected that the Russian army will receive over 1,000 T-90M tanks in 2023, which, although small compared to the scale of peacetime orders in the Soviet era, is still a tremendous increase over the acquisition rates seen from 1992 to 2022. These acquisitions are expected to be supplemented by deployments of upgraded variants of older tank models, including enhanced T-72s such as the T-72B3M, as well as improved models of the older T-62 which have been brought out of storage. The T-90M entered service in the Russian Army in April 2020, 2 months after completing state trials, and while the Russian Army was set to purchase only a few dozen units from production lines, the escalation of war in Ukraine in February has resulted in an expansion of planned acquisitions to thousands of vehicles. Planned production rates are estimated at over 1,300 per year, alongside small numbers of more modern T-14 tanks which have yet to officially be commissioned into the Russian army. This has allowed the tank to increasingly form the backbone of the Russian fleet, with its armor production configuration having also been used in late 2022 to provide an upgrade package for older T-72 tanks, which is speculated to be called the T-72B3M model. The tank's firepower also improved significantly on its predecessors, with a new autoloader and main gun allowing it to integrate longer APF-SDS rounds with a much greater penetrative capability against enemy armor. Separation of ammunition and crew through new protection for the tank's autoloader carousel also significantly increases survivability, as demonstrated by the lack of internal explosions seen on T-90Ms that have been hit in Ukraine. The T-90M firepower, sensors and armor protection place it in a different league compared to other tanks in the Russian arsenal, and have been widely seen to comfortably surpass the capabilities of rival tanks produced in the Western world. A distinct advantage of the T-90M is that it is only around 2/3 the size of Western tanks, which can weigh 70 to 80 tons for up-armored American and German vehicles, with lower fuel consumption and maintenance needs, and much greater ease of transport, being notable advantages. While presenting a much smaller target to enemy gunners, the tank's size also optimizes it to using roads and bridges built for civilian vehicles, which few Western tanks can. The tank also benefits from reduced crew requirements at just 3 personnel, where German, American and British tanks require 4, due to the use of an autoloader.